And with that, I wanted to welcome my friend Daniel. How are you doing, Daniel?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited to be immersed back into the Toronto Starts community and hearing all these awesome things that you've been up to, Craig.
Yeah, just wanted to let you know right now we see your the presenter view. I can see your slide outline and all that kind of stuff, not the full presentation.
Oh, that's weird. Okay, can you
There
see
we
me
go. That's
now?
better. Yep.
Okay.
And we met, I don't know, 5 years ago. I've been doing this for so long, it's a little bit of a blur. And what many people probably don't know is, you helped us, Now Creative helped us getting started, figuring out some of our branding, and
hmm
even doing our logos. If people don't know, the Toronto Starts logo was done by your group, and that was everyone compliments on this. So thank you very much for that.
Nice.
Um, and I want to send it over to you. What are we talking about today?
Perfect. Yeah, as you can see, brand building tips to drive growth. Obviously, we're talking about how it relates to the pandemic, and I've been able to talk to a number of groups, including Founders Institute and other entrepreneur centers about this. And I'm really excited to kind of share some things today and some examples. So obviously, this is me. My agency is called Nat Creative Group. We're working on a new offering as well called Marquee, which will be coming soon. And back when I was a student, I started a nonprofit called Access, which still runs today. We actually do pitch competitions for youth-led nonprofit organizations who have projects. So again, the agency, we focus on branding and content marketing. We work with a number of different clients in the startup space, as well as people in nonprofit, government, huge range over the years. So we just turned 7 during the pandemic. So obviously, I wanted to dive into some of the basics here. What is a brand? And to me, your brand is your promise. It's what you stand for, what you offer, and what people, how people define you. Getting a little bit more in depth here. Brands are obviously a lot more than you can see. People tend to think of branding as your logo only, and I love that. Craig, you have the startup. You have your logo right there, the Toronto Starts logo in the corner on your screen, and I have my now logo right on my shirt. So yes, the logo is the first thing you see, but that's just one of the things, right? The visuals and the key messaging. What else makes up your brand is the team, the type of people that you invest in, the environment, creating a place that supports your vision and values. Obviously, right now we're talking virtual environments, and then your core values is huge because these actually do shine through whether or not they're part of your brand or your website. It does become apparent after a while, and then your vision, of course. How your core why aligns to your core customers' needs. So I'm not going to talk too much about this, but just wanted to show you that there's a lot more to a brand. So again, what can you actually do right now? We want to get practical. I'm going to share a few things here about kind of questions you can ask yourselves and observations about what's going on right now. So authenticity. Authenticity is more important than ever. So of course we ask, what does your brand stand for? Really important to avoid just jumping on the bandwagon, copying what other brands are doing, what you see on trend. Acknowledging that you don't have all the answers is a big thing right now, especially during the pandemic. It's literally the first time that all of us are going through this. Being more personal and consider being present on camera is huge. So obviously, with Toronto Starts, there's all kinds of in-person events, so they do have that presence. But normally, for a lot of brands that maybe just had an e-commerce business or people working in an office somewhere, there's no face to their company. And now is an amazing time to be present on camera if you can, do these live events, go on Instagram Live and start showing your face. A lot of startups have been doing this, and it's really fun to see that happen. Now is the time to show your values. So I added here the statement that empathy and transparency are key more than ever. Many people are feeling vulnerable right now. There's a lot of issues happening in the world that have stemmed from the pandemic and otherwise. And so, yeah, be empathetic and be transparent. So when it comes to, again, some of your content and your branding here, so serving and connecting with your community in a meaningful way is really important. Now, people don't always know what we mean by community, and I don't mean your neighbors down the street. I mean your community is your customers. It's the following you have on social media across all your platforms. It's also your local community that who is in your area, if you do have that. It's charitable organizations that you may support or partner with, and it's your peers and partners in your network and in your startup community. So again, this is a big, think big about who your community really is and how you can serve and connect to them. When it comes to content, obviously it's about creating valuable and timely content. A lot of people are so worried about keeping their page up to date, and they're just posting stuff left, right, and center. But it's really about the value and the timing, right? So I say to emphasize your expertise, just really focus on that strength and what you can offer there. That's why people are following you, right? They're not following me because I give great recipes and I have great insights on where to travel and weather trends and all that type of stuff. They follow me because of my connection to the community, to startups, to nonprofits, and marketing tips that I share. So just kind of own that expertise. Next thing is, again, it's a casual reminder that you're there. When the pandemic started, a lot of people kind of disappeared for a while. They didn't really know what to do or what to post. Offer to help and accommodate. A lot of startups and brands came up with programs. Unfortunately, now that we're several months in to the pandemic, some of those programs have ended and accommodations have ended, but there are others that I'll mention too that have done a lot of free programs and have given amazing discounts and rates during the pandemic. And then also super important is to focus on building some evergreen content as well. Helpful resources that are not pandemic specific. We don't want everything to still be about the pandemic all day, every day. Remember that some of your clients have more time to consume content. So again, now that people are not shuffling from meeting to meeting or running major conferences and events, some of them have more time to consume your content. So look at what you can create for them that's actually going to be valuable and helpful. This one is really important from my perspective, at least, sharing positive content. You also want to be a little bit considerate. The news is still heavy and anxiety inducing for some, especially people that have lost their jobs or the people that are right now that are parents that are worried about school. It is a stressful time still. And so your brand could be that source of positivity. You don't have to be the ones that are just kind of like reiterating the news and the negative stuff that's going on. Definitely consider using humor still during these times, but of course be sensitive to the people that are still, pretty negatively affected by it right now. One tip here is to get a sense of how your customers and how your community is thinking. Look at the comments. Look at comment sections on other news sites. Look at comment sections on other publications, on Instagram accounts, on articles. You can really get a sense of how people are reacting and what they're thinking here. And I've used this tactic a couple times before, positioning something in a new way. Really, really important to see what people are thinking. Now, again, I talked about how people have more time to consume content. So consider creating more content. This quote here from HBR, Harvard Business Review, talks about how there's shifts in trends, right? So consumers have returned to broadcast and cable TV in some cases. They're also seeking more escapism and entertainment. So if your business is some kind of app or a tool or content at all, people are spending more time on social and streaming and scripted programming. Between remote working arrangements and live streamed workout classes, college lectures, and social engagements, we're testing the bandwidth of our homes. So again, depending on where your business model is, people are looking for more content to consume still. And again, for the summer months, some people are still a little bit out and about, even though they can't do a lot of travel and major events. Coming into the fall, I think we're going to see another huge need for content because people are going to be, kind of stuck inside with much less to do. All right, next thing here is to track trends and measure your results. Like I said, it's unprecedented time for everyone, but look at what's actually working, make quick pivots and adapt. So if you set your content strategy out in March or April, that definitely needs to pivot, right? You definitely need to be ready to change how things are going. When things come in the forefront, such as major news events, political events, the Black Lives Matter movement, all those major things that are coming to the forefront, you need to be able to adapt and pivot your content, right? So look at that for sure. I'm not saying to use those as trends to jump on. I'm saying to be careful how you're crafting your messaging and your content so that it actually makes sense in these times. Document your trends to better adapt your messaging. For example, I talked about this a little bit earlier, which is observing conversations across social networks, seeing what people are posting in the comment sections, reading reviews if you have a product-based business, reading reviews, looking for opportunities there. If people are complaining about certain things on other products, that's a great opportunity for you to jump on that and take action. And again, you can become more prepared for future disruptions as a business, as an entrepreneur, as a content marketer. You're going to know what to do, the next time something dramatic happens, such as what happened at the beginning of the pandemic. And then again, I mentioned to start to really own digital methods for connecting with customers, knowing this pandemic will have lasting effects. And we've seen that, of course, with people who want to continue to do curbside pickup and takeout as opposed to dining in or shopping or browsing through a mall, for example. So look at those ways that people are doing that, and don't just have a temporary solution. Think of how you can build that in. I worked with a couple of people who are interested in digitizing from, they have, storefront businesses, and everyone is launching online stores. A number of companies are making it free or easy for people to do that. Even Square, the card reader, they're allowing you to have a free online store as well, directly in a couple of clicks. So, look at ways that you can actually build a lasting system where people can interact and purchase from you. Also, if you are doing any paid ads, or if you haven't considered paid ads yet, it could be the time to try that. Display advertising. The first few months of the pandemic, we saw literally it was like half the spend from a lot of these big brands and companies. So what that means is that there's a lot more room for you as a small business or as an entrepreneur to actually reach your audiences, and you're not bidding as high for a lot of those keywords. So again, see, these are some of the stats: 47% drop in budget for display ads, 45% for paid social media, 24% drop for paid search. And of course, you can look up updated stats for sure, but I just wanted to show you kind of how significant that was. And again, half of the consumers in a poll stated that they actually want brands to communicate more during this time, not less. And people were, initially concerned about communicating too much or getting in people's way. Great brands build their equity in crisis like these. And again, if you are, building a brand from scratch, now is a really good time to take this opportunity to build that up. So now I'm going to talk a little bit more specifically about content and seeing what other brands are doing. Reframing your content strategy is important here. So there's a couple of startup founders here and marketers that have said, our rallying cry right now is this: retention is the new acquisition and helping is the new selling. So very good way to frame it, especially for startups. And then here, a founder and CMO said, we're shifting our investment from advertising to empathy, philanthropy, facilitating community connection, and inspirational content. And I love that approach. Obviously, depends what your business is, but you can definitely take this mindset for your content. Addressing and responding to the changing customer needs. I'm going to show you a number of examples here. This example here is about free offers and guides. So at first, TrueFan, they're a Toronto-based startup here. They had when they first launched this, I think in about a week, they had over 1,000 small to medium-sized businesses sign up for this offering that they had. So again, they were giving you free 45-day access and a guide that they put together. And it's huge to see this demand, right? This is something that they would have never seen prior to this, and this didn't even require any paid ads, for example. So definitely a great thing to do. Put out some free guides and offers. Email marketing. Here are a couple of examples. I got one, a client we used to work with who is in New York. They put these newsletters together where, again, their target is millennials, and they're actually, millennials and Gen Z, and they actually do research and they sell data on Gen Z and millennials to brands. So again, they used things like memes and graphics and GIFs and stuff in their emails, keeping stuff super relevant, and then providing this data here, which is really helpful, right? People want this helpful data, and it's shareable stuff for sure. The next one is a company from Kitchener-Waterloo region, Vidyard. They actually came out with a new free product altogether. They actually introduced this and launched this new thing. So it's something that they were thinking about doing, and they had it under development. But they actually launched a whole new video messaging platform so that companies can improve their internal communication during pandemic. So it's called Vidyard for Internal Communications. Something I would look into depending on the size of your company. But again, they were intending to release it as a paid offering, but decided to just speed up the launch and put it out there at the time of the pandemic. This one here is again about pivoting and supporting fellow entrepreneurs in your business community. So there's a small business already called Toronto Food Tours, and their founder realized, of course, people aren't coming on big tours to restaurants anymore. So he launched a curated food delivery service, and he focused on St. Lawrence Market. If you look at this CBC article, there's a great story there where a lot of the business owners in St. Lawrence Market who were very successful were all of a sudden seeing massive declines. People weren't, there was no tourists anymore. People weren't hosting big events anymore. And so he was able to put together a shop that offers more than 500 products from more than 20 of the market vendors. So I love seeing this local solution, right? A lot of the businesses say they lost more than half their business due to COVID. So this is kind of a cool solution there. And then another one, so we look more from a small business side to a big business side. We have TELUS. TELUS Business did a ton of things for the pandemic. One of them, the example I wanted to show here was starting off with actually offering or highlighting the relevant solutions your company already has. I did explain, like, for example, Vidyard, whole new offering came out, right? But for TELUS, they just decided to push ads and content about the virtual work solutions that they already offer, right? We had a chance to work with them on those materials, and this campaign here, Stand with Owners, was a huge thing that they launched to support small businesses. So they got experts such as Arlene Dickinson. We filmed a number of video interviews over Zoom to kind of get some tips and advice out there, so helpful content. And then also this amazing series of meeting the owners where they're kind of profiling small businesses that could definitely use all the attention that they could get at this time. And one of those things was this video that was promoted, on TV. It was everywhere. So it was really exciting to see how small business owners are adapting to the pandemic. And another initiative that they did as part of the Stand with Owners campaign was giving away $25 gift cards to small businesses. Obviously, as a startup, you may not have $500,000 to give away. However, it was a really exciting thing. Instead of just, giving away something of their own, they decided, you know what, we're going to buy $25 gift cards for all kinds of Canadian businesses. And that way you're doing two things. You're giving something free to your customer and you're supporting the small business. So in 4 days, they like exhausted their budget there. They got 20,000 posts, and it was incredible. We were able to participate as well as a team. And another huge brand here. Earlier on, the reason I'm showing you this is because it's a really cool way to just adapt your product and your marketing in these times. So what they did was they launched a cup design specifically to honor the essential workers across Canada. They called them hero cups. You may or may not have seen them. A lot of people, weren't visiting Tim Hortons as much if it's not part of their routine during work from home times. But it was really, really cool to see that they actually put real names of over 100 people that were considered essential workers. This next one here is actually an example of launching a new idea or a new product during this, the pandemic. So Maskwell is actually a company that I have the opportunity to be a part of. We partnered up with a existing startup in Toronto called Pure Filters. They've been around for around 6 or 7 years as well. And they decided to launch, they wanted to launch a product to help. And they created these filters that can be put in masks to filter out, obviously all kinds of bacteria and things like that. So for us, we're the marketing people. We came up with the branding, the name. We partnered on it together and put together this product. But I mentioned here, just like TELUS is focusing on the community needs and the impact. We did a number of giveaways. We did a campaign when the TTC came out. We supported Black-owned Toronto, did a giveaway to a bunch of Black-owned businesses. And the Homefront is actually an initiative started by the Upside Foundation, where they're providing supports to workers on the front lines and people that are affected by it. Anyways, we decided from day one to build in a percentage donation, and that's an amazing thing you can do with your startup as well. We decided to donate 10% of all sales to the Homefront, and as a result, we don't have to constantly be thinking about what are we doing to help, what are we doing. We kind of have this budget, and we know exactly where it's going. Just touching again on content, if you're kind of focused too much on your product and your startup and you don't know what else to share, there's a lot of tools such as BuzzSumo where you can put in keywords. Really helpful tool where you can, if you are looking to share stuff about community impact or any helpful topics for your audience, definitely check out a tool like this where it can help you find the latest content to share. It kind of helps you just curate articles and news and resources that are out there. That's pretty much it for my presentation part. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you have or talk more with you, Craig.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. That was great. And I want to just mention to everyone in the chat room, we want your questions. I don't feel like we've done our job if you leave with things unanswered. So ask your questions in the chat room or the Q&A, and I'll ask them. So with that, I liked at the beginning, what is your company's promise? So, I'm going to ask this of the chat room, first of all. So, you each are running different businesses or thinking about running different businesses. What is your company's promise? And then over to you, Daniel. How do you get to your company's promise? Because, it sounds easy, but something like that is actually pretty difficult.
Absolutely, yeah. It is a bit of a process. So sometimes it is something that we can help with as a branding agency and as marketers. But it's really has to come from the founders, right? It's that purpose and that motivation as to why you started this business. More and more people are starting businesses specifically to have some type of positive impact or solve a societal issue or problem, right? A lot of people are inspired to solve an issue that they faced when they were growing up, for example, or in their community or the home country that they came from too. But your purpose, there's a few different ways of looking at it. Your purpose can be, especially if you're talking about a positive purpose, right? It could be to improve people's lives by providing them with a solution. You're saving them time, you're saving them money. Another is to make something accessible to people who never had access to something before, right? Whether that's pricing or how you're distributing it or format you're making something in, right? And another is obviously, the sustainability side and the health side, right? Like, what are the positive impacts of the actual physical product or service? And outside of those three, your purpose could just be, hey, we have a random product. We sell matcha powder, for example, we sell matcha tea, but we decide to fund kids' education in XYZ country, right? So it doesn't have to be connected to your product, but it's a mission that you're kind of focused on. A lot of people, especially founders, were passionate about solving some kind of problem, some kind of issue, right? So that can very much be your purpose. It's just nice to pair it with something that has a positive impact, because that way you can rally the community around it. You can it actually does help a lot when you're doing things like partnerships and when you're recruiting. People want to join a team or a company that's doing some good work, right?
Absolutely, and people want to feel connected to something, and
Right, right.
we have a community, and it's exactly why I started this years ago. Is that as entrepreneurs, so many of us are solopreneurs, and we work in our home or we work wherever,
Right.
and we don't get out and talk to other entrepreneurs and socialize. So we built this community of entrepreneurs that support each other, and that's what we do. And I'm not exactly sure what our company promise is, but we are by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs, and we help start and grow and scale businesses. So, and that's what we do, and we do that every day. And I try and talk to my customers every day. So the question becomes is, how do you know you're creating value, and how do you know what type of content to create? Because, for example, we have a Slack group. I got a newsletter. I have people joining our chat room all the time, and
Yep.
they're always giving me feedback on what questions they're asking or what type of content they want to create. So it's easy for me because I'm always engaging my clients, but many people I work with don't. Do you have any suggestions for them?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things to do is build some kind of feedback process into your purchase process, right? So whether it's e-commerce or in person, a lot of people forget there's a great opportunity there to actually ask for back and for insights. And a tip there is to make it as easy as possible for people, right? Don't send them a link to a 20-question survey where they got to type stuff out. Just ask them a couple of quick things, and make it open for you to have suggestions, right? One of our startup clients, they often will even post on their Instagram, posts about, here's what we're working on, here's some feedback, right, that we're looking for. So let us know what your thoughts are there. And that's going to help you not only to make your customers feel like they've been heard, because that is one big aspect of it, but it also encourages, it opens it up for you to realize things you would never have thought about that your customers may need.
Yeah, and it's kind of like having that, what did you come here today to do on your website, or did you find what you're looking for? What were you looking for?
Yep.
But on a post sale, a lot of people ignore it. If you've got a product and you're shipping it out, I always suggest people, hey, put something in the box that says that gives them a link and a discount if they answer a couple of questions. And one of the things people just don't ask is, hey, could you tell me why you bought my product?
Yeah.
Please, just tell me why. Because now
Yeah.
you're getting stuff in your own words, and you're getting insights that you never thought. Because we always, as founders always assume people are buying it for one reason, and many founders don't realize what they're selling, and they really need those kind of conversations with their customers.
Totally. Yep. And we found that stuff with Maskwell, with the mask company. One of the reasons that immediately we launched everything on social media, obviously as a digital only brand, but we were able to get some cool screenshots of people using the product that they would tag us in, and we had no idea. For example, that people would buy it for their family or for their friends, or that they would want some for their team, and people would give us specific questions like, hey, we want kid sizes, for example, or hey, I was wondering if we could do this. And so that conversation drives innovation, and gets us thinking about how we can update our product, right?
Absolutely. And we've got a question here from the chat room. Do you have tips on how to stay focused on your brand? Sometimes I may think it works for my brand when it actually doesn't. when it doesn't help. So, are there questions to ask myself? Are there written plans you would recommend to use when you're trying to build a strategy related to your brand?
For sure. So, I mean, to answer kind of it goes back to your first question too, Craig. Is look at this book called Start with Why. It's a super popular book. If you can get the book Start with Why, it really helps you frame everything that you're doing, right? Because what you do, what I love about it is that you kind of ask yourself why, and then you ask yourself why, and then you answer it, and you ask why. You keep asking it so that you actually really boil down to the core of what it is, right? Whether it's an issue or a problem or an opportunity that you're looking to address. So for me, when it comes to kind of a process to work on brands, it always starts with research, right? You can be as creative and inspired as you know. There's no limits on creativity and inspiration, right? But doing research on what is out there, and specifically what is out there in other industries, right? Some of the most innovative and creative solutions come from merging things from two different industries. And you can see that all the time, and some of the most successful brands have done that. Is merging things that work in one industry and work in another industry, or something that's been around for 50 years in one industry but hasn't been brought to the forefront and applied in a different sector, is huge. So research is one thing, and number two stems back to the previous discussion we just had, which is asking people what they actually want. One of the things you can do is you can search up on different forums, you can search on Reddit, you can find what the discussions that people are having. A lot of people put ideas out there or share thoughts that are very valuable, but they have no intention of ever acting on them. So if you're the one that's going to actually build something, there's a lot of people out there that have posted their ideas and their concerns.
So, just to follow up, sometimes just the question here. When do you know? Is there guidelines to say, yeah, this will work with me, or doesn't, or you just test? You test a bunch of stuff and say, yeah, this not helping my brand. Let's drop it, and you test quickly.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So I would say two things. The first thing is, what's really important is that you don't actually want to be shifting around the messaging behind, like, the actual core of your brand, right? That you got to kind of solidify and define it, and be all about it, be behind it, right? It's the method that you're actually expressing that, the format and the medium, right? The types of content that you can totally test, right? So there's things like different platforms, there's things like different mediums of the content. If your audience is loving your message and they're the kind of people that love watching quick 30-second videos, that's great. You may get an amazing response from them that way. But if you're another audience who's only on mobile, who doesn't stop to watch videos on the go, they actually prefer reading text posts or articles that they can save and share later, or email to people. The only way you're gonna know that is by testing the different types of content, right? And earlier on in a brand's social media, sometimes you can actually go back and see that they've been experimenting with different types of content, different graphic styles. One thing that could be confusing, again, when you launch your brand is, it does take a while, right? It does take a bit of traction. So you might have the right path, you might be on the right path, but you don't see that traction yet. So I would say to stick with something for a bit, to at least give it a chance to work. But if you are looking to test, to answer your question, we do different types of Facebook ad tests and Instagram ad tests all the time, where you just put a few dollars behind several different designs, several different types of things. So we have like stock photos, we have graphics, we have text-based posts, we have video clips. See what people are responding to from there. As long as it's still aligned with your brand messaging, that's a really great way to test.
so you mentioned reading the comments, and you mentioned Reddit, and that's a great tip. Checking out to see what people are talking about. I work with a bunch of startups recently. I interviewed Ethan from Neophyto Foods, and they have one of their products is Neo Cheese, which is a vegan-based cheese product, and it's fantastic. And I seen some posts out there that were like, why is all vegan cheese a crime against humanity? And I'm like, you got to search for these everywhere and post your stuff about, why yours is so good and why it's different to get that kind of attention. Is there places you would recommend, other than Reddit, that are unconventional, that people go and look to find out what people are asking or talking about?
Not specifically, because it's so different to the industry, right? Like you said, there's some random meme accounts that, let's say there's vegan meme accounts, and you're going to see kind of what those people are really thinking, right? And which ones are relating most to people in the comments, right? Or which ones have the most shares. So that it is going to be dependent on industry. There are also, as a marketer, I'm looking at a lot of publications that are like about ads, so you're seeing what is working in the industry too. So looking at things like Adweek, for example, they also have a whole bunch of different divisions, different sub brands under Adweek. But there's ones that, again, some of them will just pull apart and dissect ads, and or they'll when a campaign, let's say a campaign goes wrong, right? It's just a miss or it's a disaster, that will disappear from the internet. But there are ad or marketing industry sites that will keep that content up there and dissect it and explain it, right? So that's the place where you can really learn from other people's mistakes too. So I definitely recommend searching up, even if you're not in marketing, right? Look at those publications and see what they're posting about too. Even again, there's another one called, I think it's a newsletter. It's called like Agency Spy, for example, and you get to see what other agencies are working on, what they're doing, and how they're collaborating. So it gives you some insights into how brands and marketers are thinking.
And I like to look at unusual locations like Telegram or WhatsApp groups,
Yep.
because sometimes they're in there, people are in there actively talking, and the 100 or 200 people in that particular group are really rabid fans or interested in that particular subject. So
Yep.
otherwise, they wouldn't be signed up to those things. Find the Slack groups, same thing, and get involved and see what people are asking about. Definitely a great way to go, and maybe even Quora, just to see what
Yep.
questions people are asking. Thanks for the questions. Keep them coming. Can you give us some examples of what you mentioned about companies combining things from different industry or fields?
I, I don't think I have any off the top of my head, to be honest, but there are quite a few examples of how it takes place in the digital transformation. So like services that would have normally been extremely difficult to get done, making those happen, bringing them to life in an app format, for example. I can't think of any off the top of my head, honestly, but
I've got a good one.
yeah.
So the one I can think of is Cirque du Soleil. So where they had a really great blue ocean strategy, and they changed everything, right? Where they said, let's combine the elite theater going experience with the fun of the circus, get rid of all the expensive stuff like three stages and animals and all that kind of stuff that we're kind of wearing thin, and just give the human and the acrobatic and the costumes.
Right.
And they changed everything. They went with a whole new market. They really found a new high price ticket, and they changed, what a circus was.
Totally, yeah. And really, a lot of those things are, it seems like an out of the box idea, right? But now it's very common. They're a household name, right? So, and I'm pretty sure they're a Canadian company too, right? They started in, I think, Montreal or something. But kind of those innovations where you're borrowing things from other industries can take you pretty far as well.
Yeah, and when you're kind of combining of those different things to figure out where the gaps are, there's plenty of gaps now with everything that's changed.
Yes.
And Yamit, who's asking in the chat room, we were just chatting on LinkedIn earlier today about a specific niche that I had mentioned earlier in some podcasts or webinars, but I didn't really talk specifics, and I gave it to him. And it was, when you see these opportunities, you have to go after them, because if you don't, someone will eventually do it. But at the same time,
Yeah.
competition is good, it's healthy, and there will always be competition, if not right away at some point.
Yeah, for sure. You see, well, I think you'll see that a lot now in the food space specifically. So the food industry and then the food tech space. Obviously, Foodora, I don't know if you heard, recently they just totally, withdrew from Canada. They actually left a ton of small businesses unpaid for a lot of their transactions. But as a result of that, and also the whole situation with the pandemic, a lot of food companies are innovating. A lot of restaurants have launched their own markets, their own kind of commissary kitchens as well, where they'll be offering staples and things that again you wouldn't normally get from the restaurant. You're also seeing companies that are launching new brands to only sell online products, or they're getting into products that are not fresh, but they're packaged goods now, consumer packaged goods, all because of this pandemic. They're kind of innovating, right? And there's a ton of stuff that's happening in the food space. Food Share, Toronto, they've picked up a lot of exposure, a lot of business during this time too. And again, they've made partnerships that have allowed them to distribute better. So I think there's a lot of disruption happening in that industry as well.
I agree, and I've been keeping my eye on these ghost kitchens for a while, and the
Yeah.
pandemic seems to have really kicked up a notch. I've been reading some. There's at least one coming to Toronto, and it looks pretty big. And if for those of you who don't know, a ghost kitchen is basically, a big warehouse full of different kitchens where restaurants cook, and they just deliver from there. You just order, and they could be famous restaurants from San Francisco, but they'd cook them locally, and you'd have 100 restaurants or whatever cooking out of one place. So you could order from, say, 5 different restaurants on one delivery kind of thing,
Yep.
and that's kind of disrupting things like Foodora and Uber Eats.
Yeah, and what's amazing is it's removing a lot of the barriers. If you are an entrepreneur that wants to get into the food space or food products, it's removing a lot of the barriers, because you don't have to spend a couple $100,000 on your physical setup of your kitchen, right? Your build out. You're able to actually start experimenting. There's even kitchens that you can rent out, right? Just by the day or by the hour to get your product made in a proper commercial kitchen, and no need again for the rent for storefront space. So that's definitely something that I think we're going to see a lot more of coming up.
Yeah, there's a question about what's the ghost kitchen company I mentioned in Toronto. Do you know any off the top of your head, Daniel?
Yeah, so I think there was just one that came up in, I think I was just reading an article about it in Toronto Starts, or sorry, Toronto Starts, so Start Up Here Toronto, the city's publication.
Yep.
They just did a profile on that, so I will see if I can pull that up.
I think that's where I saw it too. I'm on the editorial board of that website.
Nice.
But yeah, I'll take a look. I was reading another article on that just the last couple of days. So Amit, just ping me later, and I'll send you that information. You
Yeah.
mentioned tracking trends and measuring results. What specifically do you measure?
Yeah, so for us, again, like we have clients in every industry, right? Like it's a pretty wide range. But what we're able to measure are what we can see publicly, which are things like engagement, comments, shares from other brands. You're seeing trends where people are actually. What I love to look at is if a customer, sorry, if a brand is launching a campaign where they have a hashtag, looking at those hashtags, see how many people are actually, following the instructions and actually actively engaging in this. How many people are tagging their friends and things and thinking that it's a good idea or not, right? You can really see what works and what doesn't without having access to their analytics. And then from a broader perspective, you can definitely look at trends from following industry publications to see like the type of startups that are launching, right? The type of demand that's there. Healthcare startups are huge right now. I don't know if you have heard about Maple, but they already existed, right, as
Yep.
to do online consultations and stuff. But they ended up getting approached by Shoppers Drug Mart to become like an official partner, and their business, quadrupled or 10x or more, right? And so they were able to scale that demand, and as a result of that, you're seeing other ones that are starting up in different niches. One of Now's clients started, they existed before the pandemic, but they actually recently just launched this year, and it's called On Men, which is specifically selling products and services for the no, not products, sorry, not products and services, but medications and prescriptions for men. They have hair loss stuff, they have counseling, they have number of different offerings, and it's all virtual, it's all online. And again, those are the kinds of things that you can see the trends from the States. They notice that in the States there's a few massive ones. Hims is one brand, for example, that became huge, and you can notice those trends. You can see where the gap is in your market, and see if you can innovate on that.
Yeah, another local example might be connected to dentistry. I interviewed them for the podcast. I've worked with Victoria Tofan a bit, who's the CEO there, and they've pivoted to doing virtual consultations for dentists
Wow.
with their app. You know, you can with your phone you can show the dentist what's going on inside your mouth and stuff, and it's some pretty interesting stuff. You know, with COVID, you're trying to figure out schedule appointments, figure out what's an emergency, what's not an emergency,
Yeah.
and you can't just see everybody.
Yeah.
And yeah,
And I
so
will I will just add another example on the health space too is ink blot therapy. They again huge increase, and what they've done is they're making it super easy and accessible too. So your first session or counseling is completely free. They I don't know how they ended up doing it, but they managed to waive the price. And then their main business is actually on the B2B side. So their main business is actually saying, going to employers and saying, hey, do you want to offer mental health services to your team? Great, here's the price. But they also kept it open to everyday individuals to sign up for free, and just, I think it's for free until you actually find the therapist you like, and then the price is very affordable. So those are ones that did exist, but the pandemic has really allowed them to step up and reach this new market.
yeah, the stories are almost endless, but it's interesting to see how many companies are doing that, and we'll be interested to see what great companies are created as a result. Every time there's huge shifts in the market like this, big companies are created.
Right, that's true. Yep. And like you said, Greg, you got to actually act on those ideas. Don't just think it could be a good fit, but definitely take the time to put it together, right?
Yeah, you know, there's a saying I use. There's in our industry, there's a lot of wannapreneurs who like I have lots of ideas, but I don't know where to do. But if you don't start, you don't start. You don't do anything. And I had somebody come up to me one time and said, "What do you do with people like me?" I was at the CNE where I've got 100 different ideas, but I'm like nothing. And he looked at me and I said, "Well, unless you're actually starting anything, there's nothing I can do to help you."
Right, right.
But once you've done that, I'm ready to go. We have all sorts of stuff to help you. We had a community ready to go, and it's okay. Pick something and pivot. Pick an area and drill down. It's okay to change. So just start.
Totally.
So, can you tell us a little bit more about the work that Now Creative does, and if people want to get a hold of you, where do they go?
Yes, absolutely. So now creative, our main focus is on branding and marketing. We like I said, we work with a lot of startups, nonprofits, and some big brands as well, as you saw in the presentation. We also do I do free calls, so free strategy calls with people as well that you can book through our website, which is I'll just put it in the link, nowcreativegroup.com. And we have a team of basically a team of experts that are strategists, social media people, design people, and we love working with startups, because especially if you have an innovative idea that you're trying to get out there too, or if you're looking to make a positive impact, that's a huge thing. The nonprofit that I have as well, I'll mention, because we do a lot of work with social enterprises and startups that are working in the social good space. It's called Access Innovation. I'll put the link in here as well for you. It is specifically for youth. So if you do know any young people or students that are interested, feel free to send them my way as well. And yeah, my contact information is on the slide here.
And can we get you to send these links and your contact info out to everybody who registered today?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll send everyone an email, no problem, and I'm happy to answer any other questions you have.
Thank you for taking the time today. Really appreciate it. It was very insightful and a great conversation, Daniel.
Thank you so much for having me, Craig.
And hopefully we're going to see you again in October.
Yes, sounds good.
All right. Talk to you then.
Bye.